Hey, it's Sonia, and welcome to the SMARTA Podcast. If you want to find out how to become financially independent and financially free in just 5 years, this is the episode you've been waiting for. You need to listen to this episode because Jason Graystone sat down with me and explained all of his expertise beautifully. But before we begin, I have a special announcement that this is the 50th episode of the SMARTA Podcast. And I'm just so grateful to you because without you, you've been on this journey since day one. And I couldn't have started and I couldn't have got here if it weren't for everything that you just gave me, the gratitude and all of the amazing emotions that always came when a new episode came around and I had to post it. Congratulations on Jason for being the 50th guest. Here's some more info about Jason Graystone, who is an investor, an entrepreneur, an international #1 best-selling author. Now, Jason is known for helping people achieve their true financial independence and personal freedom. And he's got this amazing book. And hear this, it's published this year. It's called Always Free. Not only is he an author, but Jason is also the creator and host of the top-ranked Always Free podcast that has almost 4 million downloads, over 180 episodes. Now, from launching his first business at just 22, only 8 years later, he managed, at the age of 30, to achieve complete financial freedom. He has built and scaled multiple 7-figure businesses and mentored thousands of people worldwide. His insights have been featured in Forbes, on prestigious stages like TEDx, global investment summits, and even, listen to this, Necker Island alongside Sir Richard Branson. But now, beyond all of his success, Jason is just passionate about purpose and living an accomplished and happy life that you're proud of. He's raised nearly £500,000 for charitable causes and continues to inspire others to see wealth not just as a way to buy time, but as a path to create, contribute, and live fully inspired lives. Now, if you're ready to find out what freedom is, avoid losing money, and just find out more about trading and investing, let's start this 50th episode. Jason Graystone, welcome on the SMARTA Podcast. It is an absolute pleasure here to have you as my 50th guest.
Pleasure to be here. What a number. 5 is my lucky number as well. So that's so
Is it
amazing.
actually? Well, that's the perfect way to have you on here. Right time.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on this one.
Let's do this. Okay, this is a personally very interesting episode for me. I'm 17 and I heard that, in your new book that launched this year, Always Free, at the very start, you've got it up there for the people listening. In the start of your book, you dedicate Always Free to Ethan, who is 17, the same age as me. And where I want to start you off with is if you had to narrow down trading to a basic definition for us teenagers, what would it be?
Trading is basically a game where you participate in an arena where you agree where there's going to be a winner and a loser. So it's not a service business. It's not something that you provide a service for and get paid. Then there's 2 winners. There's actually a winner and a loser. And you're basically betting against currencies, in my case. And if you think of currencies like each country as a company, and you're betting which one will be more valuable than the other on a daily basis. And you're placing bets against one company doing better than the other on that day. And that's the most basic way to describe what trading currencies is. And you're taking profit from small incremental changes in the difference in those prices. And that is it in a nutshell, really. So you are... It's betting, but using skill and knowledge and discretion on how to identify those discrepancies and what would give you an advantage or a high probability prediction on one doing better than the other. And you're just executing that on a daily basis.
Trading is a game as in an arena. I love that. Where I want to take you now is picture you can talk directly with a person listening. And I want to talk now a little bit more about your expertise from off your journey, launching your first business at 22 to now reaching financial freedom at 30, mentoring thousands worldwide. What would you say would be the top 3 key takeaways that you're going to share?
3 key takeaways that I'd love to get out across on this podcast would be what freedom actually is, how to avoid losing your chance at getting towards financial freedom, and how trading and investing and buying assets essentially can accelerate your journey towards freedom. That's kind of the 3 big takeaways, I think.
And I'm personally really curious to get to understand how I can start and where to start in the world of investing and trading as a 17-year-old that next year is going to have an account to my name, and I'm going to be able to take action into all of this. So where I want to start is your book, Always Free, where you emphasize that financial freedom begins with mindset. I want to ask you, Jason, now, what do you think is the biggest mindset shift that one can do to have more financial freedom success?
We're seeing identities be forced and created because they're trying to find meaning. They're trying to find themselves. And in actual fact, that's all. I mean, social media hasn't helped with that because people are comparing themselves so much to other people that they don't want to be comparing themselves anymore. So therefore, they're creating new identities where they can't be compared with other people. Not many people know who they are truly. And the reason they don't know who they are is because they're looking up to other people. They're looking up to putting other people on pedestals. They are trying to please and appease society, or please and appease mum and dad, or, you know, they're basically starting their life on a path that is slave to someone else's dreams and hopes and thoughts, right? And that is very, very common, you know. So unless you know what you want in life and where you want to go, and you can look at other people who give you advice or put onto you what they think that you should be doing, unless you can look at those people and say, they don't really have the life that I want, and then you can take actions towards who you want and what you want to be and what you want to do, then you're always going to live someone else's life. So it doesn't matter how much money you earn or whatever, you're always going to be pressured into how you should spend your money, or what decisions you should make, or what actions you should take, and you're never being true to yourself. The other problem is with the mindset is when we do get money, or when we do, you know, get paid, or we get income, we start to buy things that we think other people would be impressed by. So we're buying things and spending our money on things that aren't us, you know, and we are, in doing that, we're sacrificing our freedom. We're sacrificing the amount of time we can buy. I mean, we go and buy a Gucci handbag, you know, if your living costs or living expenses are £1,000 a month, and you've gone and bought a £10,000 handbag, well, that could have been 10 months that you could have bought into the future, you know, of freedom. And that's how you want to look at it. So knowing who you are, knowing what's truly important to you and where you want to go in life, that's the key. That's the first step. Because if you don't know who you are, it doesn't matter how much money you're going to earn, or when you do get the money, you're going to be told how to spend that money, because you're not mentally free, you're not certain in yourself, and you don't have confidence in your own ability to make decisions aligned with who you are as a person. Mental freedom is being true to yourself and knowing who you want to be. The other thing around mental mindset is we have this memory baggage of what we hear growing up about money. So if you've been in an environment where you've witnessed a negative, or what you've labeled to be negative, event that takes place, like your parents arguing, or your parents got a divorce, or, you know, you saw your next door neighbor lose his business and lose his home, or something like that, right? Some negative talk around money, you might carry that forward with you and then have a belief that is what money does, you know, and you don't see money for what it is. Actually, you don't see it for how that person was with money and why that happened to them, and how poor they used the money, or the strategy that made that happen for them. What you do is you say, money made that happen. And you carry that forward into your life, and it gives you fears. It stops you from taking certain actions. It stops you in believing that if you accumulate more money, any good will come of it, because you only think that bad things will come of it. So mindset's key, and reframing your thoughts around money and seeing money for what it was, what it is, what it was created for, is crucially important if you're going to be able to make the most of it and use it for opportunity and freedom and security.
Can I add something onto what you said, Jason?
Absolutely.
Around why so many people can't find their purpose or just haven't thought about it, you've made me make this connection between your perfect explanation to Arthur C. Brooks, which is a professor at Harvard Business School, the author of How to Build the Life You Want, around the idea of social media stealing the time that we had being bored and just spending like 15 minutes. When was the last time that you remember spending 15 minutes just doing absolutely nothing, being bored and thinking about the uncomfortable truths and thoughts that we have that makes you get a clear picture of what it is you want to do, how you want to deliver into the world, and why your voice can bring that new nuance into whatever it is that your passion is.
It's so important. It's so important. I actually, if you go into my calendar every morning, I have boredom time. I have thinking time in my calendar where I don't do anything other than think.
I love that. I'm going to steal that from you. I will.
You have it. You have it.
Super important, and I'm glad you do it. And I want to ask you now, for the younger professionals out there, what is one small but powerful step that we can take this week to be closer to reaching financial independence from you that, in 8 years went from starting your business to reaching financial freedom?
Yeah. So the first thing to understand is people think that it's about money. Freedom's about money, right? So they instantly chase financial freedom, or they chase this idea that money will get them to freedom. The people in that position are trying to escape the life that they're in right now, right? So the elephant in the room is the fact that they need to get to financial freedom. You haven't built a life that you love. You're not doing something that you enjoy. So imagine if you knew who you were and you was really certain about who you were, and then you could build a vocation, build a job that didn't feel like a job.
Yeah.
Something where you're sharing what's valuable to you. The time goes so quick because you don't want, you could talk about it all night, all day, except you're getting paid, and you can optimize your time to be paid for talking about things that you enjoy or doing things that you enjoy. At that point, you step out of chasing for financial freedom. You don't believe in retirement. You don't subordinate to this idea that one day you're going to stop work. You'll never want to stop. You never ever want to stop at that point, right? So the financial element is purely how much time you can buy into the future. So how you manage your money, how you manage your income, so that you can buy time into the future if you need to stop. So if you're in a position where you need to take care of a loved one, or you become injured, touch wood you don't, or you need to take time off, then you've got that financial runway there that will allow you to do that. But the elephant in the room is basically, if you're trying to escape and you're trying to take a bet on red or black to somehow have this quick windfall or place a lottery ticket, it's because you're not happy in your life. And it's much easier to optimize your life for happiness than it is to reach financial freedom. And if most people did that, they'd be so much happier and so much more free, and they would take the pressure off, and then they would happily build financial freedom. Because when you're doing something you love, you can naturally earn way more money than you can doing something that you hate, because you're more energized. You give off an energy. I can talk about this stuff all the time. And when people see me talk about this stuff, I come alive and I'm giving out an energy that it's infectious, and people want to work with me and pay me and give me money. And they're like, I want to work with this guy, because it's hard not to make more money when you're doing something that you enjoy. So the first step, and I know this probably isn't the answer you was looking for, because you're probably thinking about stocks and investing and trading and all the rest of it, but actually the first step towards financial freedom is to make money where it doesn't feel like it's a job. That's the first step.
You always mention that time is your most valuable asset. And I just absolutely love when I was looking at the contents of your book. In part 5, Becoming Always Free, you have these 2 categories, 2 chapters that I, like, without reading them, just fell in love with them already. It's Freedom Lifestyle Formula. And then the second one, Hard Work is a Myth. What is the Freedom Lifestyle Formula? And why is hard work...
Okay, so hard work is a myth. I love that as well. And, we'll talk about that in a second. But the concept around the Freedom Lifestyle Formula is a way to scale your lifestyle, because we all want experiential freedom. We want to be able to have the experiences that are meaningful to us. And there are going to be some that you can do right now, and then some that you want to move towards in the future. The Freedom Lifestyle Formula is basically a set of principles that you can abide by to have it all, to have the things that you want inevitably as a result of following those steps. And without going into like granular detail, a lot of it really is understanding that fair exchange rules the game. So in other words, there's one way to get money, and that is from another human being. And there's 2 ways to get it. You either serve them and they get a result and they pay you, or you beat them at a skill and it's a competitive environment and they give you the money, and there's a winner and a loser. And that's just the same as trading, boxing, poker, golf, whatever, right? The most rewarding and fulfilling way, and the easiest way, is to serve them. So whatever it is that you are packaging up, make sure that you give service and you give fair exchange, and they get value and they pay you. Because when you do that, you don't feel guilty about receiving the money. You feel there's a fair deal, and you'll feel rewarded. You'll be fulfilled because you're helping people. And that's it's really key in scaling your lifestyle, because I've seen people take. And what happens is guilt creeps in. They get depressed. They become some kind of, feel very unethical. And then they end up going and do some dark side stuff that you want to stay away from. So fair exchange rules the game. And then it's the rate of growth. Rate of growth is really important, because people want riches. People want everything right now. And having a long-term time horizon, and when I say long, I'm talking like 5 years. If you can delay gratitude for 5 years, you can have pretty much anything you want. You can completely transform your life in 3 to 5 years. What most people do is they overestimate what's achievable in 1 year. And then when they realize that there's a bit of work to do, they then underestimate what's achievable in 5 years. So they give up, or they chase the next thing or the next thing or the next thing, right? So just stick at something. Have a 5-year apprenticeship to yourself. Give yourself a 5-year apprenticeship where you're going to show up every day, you're going to give service every day, and you're going to show up like the sun and beam like the sun, and you're going to give your best value. And after 5 years, if you are not in a great financial position after doing that, I would be gobsmacked. I've never met anyone that hasn't been, right? Which is why I love what you're doing with this podcast, by the way. I think it's incredible work. And then anything after that, without breaking down the whole thing, really it's like not keeping up with the Joneses, making sure that your purchases are aligned with you, making sure that you're not splurging too much money on stuff that you can't afford. Like, if you can't afford to buy it twice, don't buy it. Those types of rules. If you live your life by those rules, you will have a nice, sustainable, scalable lifestyle. But it all comes down to sticking to, some rules, and not many people want to stick to rules, unfortunately.
During this 5-year plan that you just told the listener and me about, it's very important to stick with people that follow your vision, share your values. I want to lead you in to how you can always be free, because you've been on so many stages, mentored thousands of people, and through all of the knowledge and educational videos you're providing through your YouTube account, it is absolutely fantastic. You've even masterminded with Sir Richard Branson. And so here I want to ask you the importance about always sticking yourself with a community that has their head in the game and that always supports you.
Yeah. So environment dictates performance. So you want to be around people who are helping you grow, and you also want to be around people where there is a fair exchange going on, right? So if you're the shoulder to cry on all the time, then you're going to become a little bit resentful after a while. You know, you might be the good friend for a while, but then you're going to feel a little bit of resentment, and you're going to go, this person's exhausting my energy. You know, I'm coming down to their level because it's having a negative impact on me and my life and my focus. And there's a saying that if you look at the people around you, you know, you're the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time around. So if you add up the 5 people that you spend most time around, you add up their income and you average it divide it by 5, you will be within kind of 5 or 10,000 of that. And I've found that to be pretty much true across the board. So the goal is, I mean, that might be okay for you, but if you're not where you want to be, it would pay for you to enhance your network and get around people who are having different challenges, different problems, different view on life. If let's just say that you're earning 25 grand a year or 30 grand a year, and that's the average of the people you're spending time around, you will have 30 grand a year conversations. They would have solved problems to the tune of 35 grand. They would have had tax challenges to the tune of 35 grand. You know? And when you get around people who are earning 100 grand a year, you will be having 100 grand a year conversations. And it is as simple as that. It's not a morality thing. It's not, I don't want to spend time with them because I'm a horrible person. It's I'm not where I want to be, so I need to learn and grow from people who are where I want to be. And you can get around those people and your average income will grow as well. But environment is so important. If you want to grow and you're not where you want to be, get around people that are 5 steps ahead of you instead of people that are keeping you where you want to be. Because what you find is, I mean, you're a female, right? So very, very common female thing is where one will want to lose weight and go to the gym, and the other friend will say, yeah, awesome, you know, I'll come to the gym with you. And then you actually go and do it and they don't. Yes. And then you start losing weight and they're like, you know, you're still going to the gym. Oh, cool. And then you keep going and you're looking amazing. And then they go, don't get too skinny. Oh, don't lose too much, you know, and they try and pull you back. And it's not because they're a horrible person. It's because humans just don't want someone to do what they perceive to be better than them, because it's like survival of the fittest. We want to be the best. We don't want people to do better than us. But successful people do. They love it. They want to hold a hand out. They want to pull you up. And one other point I'll make on the environment and people around you is, don't get infatuated with this idea of always being surrounded by positive people, because you can get fat. You can get complacent, right? If everyone's telling you you're amazing all the time, you'll start to believe it, and then you'll get complacent. It's actually the haters that are there to support you, because when they say something that hurts, it's because it's true.
Yeah.
Right? Because
absolutely.
If they say something to me in the comments, like if there's haters in the comments, a lot of the time it doesn't bother me, it doesn't affect me. But if there's something that I don't love about myself, or something that I know I've said out of line, or I didn't quite fact check it, or maybe I stepped out of line, and they pull me up on it, that's going to hurt. That's going to trigger me. But instead of going, oh, you're a hater, I just learn from it. And I say, why did that hurt? Why did that hurt me so much? It's because I don't love it about myself. I'm not happy with what I said. I don't want to do that again. Or I'm overweight. I better lose weight. I'm not happy with my weight. You know, I'm really not happy. So haters serve a purpose, in my opinion. And you should listen out for them.
And this just absolutely perfectly encapsulates what you say in part 2, Home Truths, in the chapter People Don't Want You to Succeed. And
they don't.
They don't. It's just,
they really don't. Just assume most people don't. Yeah.
Our brain is just wired to pick out those negative emotions first to help us survive. But we didn't have the evolution to make us praise others first. However, if you flip the tables and you have those 100K worth conversations with people, I want to ask you, when you were sitting down with Sir Richard Branson, what was the main key takeaway from that conversation? What inspired you the most?
Take risks.
Take
That's
risks.
it. Take risks. We're here once, and if you're going to live a life and die anyway, why not just go after whatever the hell you want, you know? And the way I see it is we're here for a very, very short period of time, like a blip. And I mean, our queen, who served as a queen for 90 odd years, or she was 90 years old. No one talks about her anymore. You know, within weeks, she was forgotten, basically. Right. And she served the country all her life. Right. And she was one of the most important icons in the country. And yet no one ever talks about her now. Right. When you die, your kids might talk about you every birthday and every now and then their kids will never even know who you were and you'll be forgotten. Right. So if you're going to die, make sure you have a blast. You know, make sure that you just enjoy the hell out of this little life that we really haven't got a clue why we're here in the first place. So let's just live it. You know, let's just have fulfillment, have enjoyment, love, care, passion, whatever, you know, just do it. And Richard Branson's phrase is, screw it, just do it. You know, that is probably the best lesson you could possibly take away from him.
Screw it, just do it. Exactly. I completely agree. And I just want to dive deeper now into your book, Always Free, because you always challenge to step away from societal expectations and just do your thing that really drives you. And I want to ask you, what was your most bold decision that you've ever made that went against the so-called traditional path?
I mean, deciding to become a trader was a pretty big one, for the challenges that it brought to me and my family and my extended family. You know, no one really believed in me at that point, you know, and I don't believe them. I don't blame them. They didn't really believe in me and I don't blame them. But the biggest, boldest move was when I was 23, found out we was going to have a baby. My first son was born and it was Christmas time. Finances were a little bit bleak because of all the Christmas presents. We'd just moved into a bigger house and upscaled our expenses because of the bigger house because he was born and we needed 2 bedrooms. And I decided that was the worst time that I could possibly lose my job. So I rang up over the holidays and I left a voice note on the phone to hand in my notice to leave my job. And the reason I done that is because it was just a back against the wall situation. I knew that would catapult me, that would make me and drive me into making it work. So I kept talking about it, and then that made me do it. So I thought I would go back and have like a month's notice to work, you know, 4 weeks notice, but they let me leave in 6 days. They kicked me out in 6 days. So I had 6 days to basically make this thing work. And I'd had a newborn baby, new house, bigger mortgage, you know, all this stuff. And yeah, probably I don't recommend that most people do that, but it worked for me. You know, it was a back against the wall mentality and it went completely against. And then I moved 26 miles away from my friends just so I didn't stay in that habit of going out to the bars and the clubs all the time. I just moved away where we were complete strangers, very lonely town, started a business on my own, and the rest is history.
Wow. You must be so determined and disciplined to just always keep believing in your dream. I really get inspired by that.
You have no choice, right? When you put your back against the wall like that, you really have no choice other than to there's no plan B, basically.
Yeah. Jason, I want to put you up to a challenge. What do you say?
I'm up for any challenge.
Let's do it. This is the challenge that I want to give you. In 60 seconds, why don't you pitch Always Free, your book, to the person listening right now who might be interested about gaining financial freedom in those 5 years and really believing in their dreams? Why should they read your book?
Okay, so when you were 7 years old, you had all the freedom in the world, right? When you were 7, you were probably playing on your bike or, I don't know, getting an ice cream with your friends, skipping, hopscotch, whatever it was. And then your parents would call you in at night and say, come on, it's time to have a shower. You got to get ready for bed or whatever. And you would think, oh man, you know, when I'm an adult, no one's going to tell me what to do. I'll be free. you know? And then when adults become adults, you see them move further and further away from freedom and further away from who they were at 7, you know, further and further away from who they truly are. And it had nothing to do with money back then. It was just free to be inspired, to be creative, to be yourself. There was a period of time when in 2012 where I took my family to Disneyland. And we went to Florida and we went over into the ticket barrier, and there's this old guy works there who stamped the ticket, and he said to us, "Go and be a kid again." And I remember looking at everyone run through the turnstiles, and everyone was so happy. And I realized that's all they wanted. All they wanted was to be a child, right? So if you read this book, what it will help you do is create freedom in mind, movement, and money. So basically, it'll allow you to get back to being who you truly are and being who you want to be, and then creating a life where you can do whatever you want to do, and then having the financial stability to stop if you need to. And that to me is being always free. And I believe that when you become always free, you become free to focus on your most meaningful work. You become better humans. You become a better human being. You can create more, solve better problems, be more supportive, become a better parent, partner, spouse, colleague, whatever it might be. I believe that this message is so important, and that's why I wrote the book. So that's what you'll get from it if you read it.
Mm-hmm. And I believe it's so empowering to just, if the person made it this far listening to this podcast, do yourself a favor and just go back to the 7-year-old you, have that freedom, and get yourself a copy of Always Free.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I want to take you back now in time to a little older, 10 years older than when you were at 17, my age, and ask you, based on all of the expertise that you've gained, what would you say would be the one advice that would have carried you through all the time until present?
The understanding that everything is half true, and there is equal upsides and downsides to every situation. And when you are sad about something, it's because you're not seeing the good and the lessons. And when you're excited and ecstatic about something, sometimes you're not seeing the downsides, and that can humble you. So not being put off track or disheartened or discouraged by something that you've labeled negative, right? So if something bad happens to you, if something bad happened to you when you was a kid, or 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe, you had this bad experience that you labeled bad. And at the time, it was the worst thing that could happen to you in the world. And then you might have developed a little bit of a fear, a phobia, maybe a trust issue. And then 10 years later, if I asked you the question, was that a bad thing that happened back then? You would probably tell me that it was actually a good thing, because you learned all these lessons, you met this person, that person, you built this life instead of that life, and maybe you split up with someone and you was like, right, yeah, so it was great. It was terrible at the time, but it's great now because I've met this person or that person and I've had this great life. But the fact that it took you 10 years to see the same event as really bad, now it's really good, but it's just an event. Imagine if you could have just seen that instantly. Imagine if you could just appreciate the lessons very, very quickly in a short period of time. That would stop you having this inefficiency to move forward. It will stop you having this block, this period of time that just doesn't need to be there, to move on and take more risks and move to the next step. So one, it's important for you to take calculated risks, and sometimes not seeing the good in things will stop you taking that next step, or it will delay the next step for a very long time, which you don't want to do. And two, when you're seeing people promote stuff online, you understand that everything's half true. So everyone is promoting something based on their own values and their own agenda. So if you can see that for what it is, then you understand, yeah, I know why they're promoting that, because it serves their values, serves their purpose. But I know there's another side to it. They say you should never meet your heroes, right? Because when you put people on pedestals, you only see the upside to them. You only see the good side to them. And there's actually this week, there's like I won't mention names, but there's an influential person in the media this week known for giving relationship advice. And guess what? They're now a mistress or a side chick to someone, and they've been caught out, and now everyone's like, you've been telling everyone about relationships, and now you're going against everything you've been promoting. She's human. Like, that is it. And everyone has every trait. Like, stop looking up to people and you won't be disappointed. That's really it. So with those two outlooks on life, what it allows you to do is it allows you to be poised and neutral and see things for what they are, and not get too disheartened when things don't go your way, but not get overly cocky when things do go your way. And you can navigate through the middle and go directionally correct to where you want to go. And you're not having fantasies about people and one-sided stories. You're grounded. That's the key. I think that is the absolute key to living a successful life.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And again, you made my mind wander to Anne Lecomte, who's the author of Tiny Experiments. She really realizes that, you can underestimate what you can do in 10 years' time and overestimate what you can do in a year. But you can just be grounded and still carry out your tiny experiments over the course of, your year, and realize at the end, when everyone's New Year's resolution comes along, how much you've accomplished because you just stuck to it. Jason, I want to move you now into the SMARTA Podcast traditions. And here I will give you 2 questions. The first one is based on the world of literature, and it's particularly this. What would you say are the top 2 books that completely shifted your perspective through which you view life?
The first one, it's a shame I have to pick 2. The first book I read was by Napoleon Hill, called Think and Grow Rich. Now, it's a bit of a cliche book, but it really did change the way that I looked at what success is and how inevitable you can achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve, not just by money, but from actions that you take and belief in yourself. So that was kind of the first self-development book I read way back when I was about 15 years old, 16 years old. That's going way back. But the absolute life-changing book is by Dr. John DeMartini, and it's called The Values Factor. And it's really all about figuring out who you are, being who you want to be. And actually, Dr. John DeMartini wrote the foreword for my book. He's an absolute legend. I think if everyone read that book, the world would be a much happier place.
The second question that I have for you is where I asked my last guest to leave a question for the next one. And so in this case, Ron Kaufman left over this question for you. What specific changes would you like to see in the curriculum that young people experience at school, and how would you recommend our educational system teach it?
That's a really great question. What I would like to see taught more in schools is around figuring out what your purpose is and how to become creative around that. When I was at school, I was asked what I wanted to do for a living, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue. I didn't have an absolute clue. I just stumbled into a job, when I left school, and it was definitely not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Figuring out what your purpose is and then how to plan goals around that. We don't do any goal planning at school, or we didn't. And I think if you can figure out how to realize what you're here for on this planet, or at least how to keep an eye on that as you go into adolescence, then how to set goals and plan goals around that. That's so simple, but I think that's a key to having a successful life. So that would be my answer, to be honest.
And of course, financial freedom and finance, personal finance especially.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Isn't taught in school.
It's always secondary, though. For me, living the life that you want to live is key. That's key. And then the financial bit will take care of itself.
Jason Graystone, my 50th guest. I started the episode in this way, and I want to finish it in the same way. So if you can talk directly with the person listening right now, what end message would you like to leave them with?
I would like to leave them with this. I would say that wherever you are right now, you might have thought that you had ended up here in your life, but you're here at the moment. Mm-hmm. And the reason you're here and not here is because you've made a series of decisions that may or may not have been influenced slightly by someone who has a different agenda to you. So instead of getting down the road and going too far and then having to reverse engineer all of that back to doing something that you want to do, start questioning the decisions you're making, questioning the advice that you're taking from people, and asking yourself, do they have the life that I want or don't they? And if they're giving me this advice, how can I take pieces of that advice and then align it to something that I want, and synthesize a paradox where this person's telling me this person's telling me that. Well, they might both be right slightly, but aligning that to who you want to be and where you want to go, and then using it in that way. If you can do that, and every time you get given advice, every time you get an opinion, make sure that you carry out that process, and you'll start veering back on track to where you want to be. And even if you're off track right now, you can start figuring out how to get back on track, because we only get one life. It's not worth living other people's.
An American author, which is absolutely brilliant, named Brian Byro, the author of Outstanding Success, says that we take at least 50,000 choices every single day, and it's up to you how you decide to choose them. And with that, I want to tell you, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Keep doing what you're doing. It's incredible.
Thank you so much, Jason, for being on today's podcast, and best of luck with everything from your podcast to your book, Always Free.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. If you've made it this far into the 50th episode, I just want to personally congratulate you, because I couldn't have done this without you. And if you've made it this far, just like this video, rate this podcast 5 stars if you're listening to it currently running, or you're joining me from your radio in your car. I'm so excited to be able to share this milestone with you. And as mentioned in the episode, if you want to grab a copy of Always Free, you can do that at Amazon or on Jason's website. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm Sonia Marta. You've been listening to the SMARTA Podcast. And I just wanted to say, if no one told you this today, that I truly, truly believe in your ability to create the life of your dreams. See you next Monday.